Up, and as far as I'm concerned, today should be a national holiday. Mel Kiper has a mock draft up. 2.0 is available right now. You're taking a quick look at the top 10 picks, according to Mel. At number 1, he has the pass rusher Abdul Carter from Penn State, and then things get interesting. Let's bring Mel Kiper into the conversation. Good morning, Mel. Let's dive into number 2,
morning, Greeny.
the Cleveland Browns. What are we looking at with Cleveland at the second pick in this draft, Mel?
In a division with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, you're looking quarterback Cam Ward. Why Cleveland and Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh? Let's face it, you got to have the arm strength to cut through wind, deal with all the bad weather. Cam Ward, incarnate word. Washington State out in Pullman. People say, hey, he's at Miami. What was it, Washington State?
Okay, now I'm going to cut ahead a little bit here. You are projecting a few teams to make moves for veteran quarterbacks. One of those is the New York Giants. So who do you have them drafting number 3 in this draft?
That's Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter, to me, is the best player in this draft, and he fills needs at 2 positions, cornerback and wide receiver for the New York Giants. Travis Hunter, to me, dynamic. If you say, okay, what's his best position, let it play out. And once he defines that, big games, playoffs, Super Bowl, whatever it may be, Travis Hunter for the Giants, assuming they get a Matthew Stafford or another quarterback.
Everyone, I was sent this yesterday. I have done everything in my power not to say anything until this moment because it was embargoed. But you have the Giants and the Raiders getting veteran quarterbacks. And so where do you have Shedeur Sanders getting drafted?
That's your Jets, Greeny, and I think it makes sense. He handles the big stage, the bright lights. He's had expectations and pressure. He's had to deal with all that at Colorado. Now he goes to the Jets. Why? Because they went old with Aaron Rodgers, veteran with Aaron Rodgers. That normally leads to a young quarterback now coming in, and certainly for sure he gets the 7 because it's not universal love out there. I had one guy, remember when I said, hey, when Peyton Manning came out, somebody said his name was Peyton Jones, it'd be a 3rd-round pick. People do revisionist history. There was no universal love out there. Everybody then
becomes, do we have to put the Shedeur Sanders jersey up in the spot that has been vacated by the Aaron Rodgers jersey as we continue sitting Shiva for the jersey? So let me get a quick take on this. Do you think, Tim Hasselbeck, that that's a good spot? Shedeur Sanders. To Mel's point, there are mixed opinions. Some people think he's going to be great. He's got a lot of the, the reading of the defense, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't have some of the outstanding physical traits. Do you like?
Well, I would say that Mel was talking about Cam Ward, Cleveland elements, that similar thing. Like you play at the Jets, like you got to go to Buffalo late in the season sometimes.
Right.
You got to go to New England late in the season sometimes. So some of the arm strength questions I think apply to guys that have to play in the AFC. So I would start there. Here's what I think. I think he's a very good decision maker, and I think he's really accurate. And there are plenty of quarterbacks that came into the league because they had huge arms and then ended up stinking because they weren't good decision makers and accurate. So do I think it's a good spot? Yeah, I think he's the first half of the first round, and I think anywhere in there ends up making sense.
Neek, what do you think? How should I feel about this?
Yeah, I think you should be excited if it ends up panning out that way. I'd be surprised. I understand that it's early in the mocking of draft process. I'd be surprised if he slides to that point. But if you get a quarterback that you can trust to consistently make good decisions, I think that should be encouraging and something you should be excited about.
Well, in recent years, the Jets have put the mock in mock drafts when they've taken quarterbacks. I mean, we've seen what's happened when they took Darnold at 3 and they took Zach Wilson at 2. Now we've got Shedeur Sanders potentially going at 7. Jeremy, talk to me.
Yeah, you got to think of this through the lens of new head coach Aaron Glenn. He wants 2 things out of a quarterback: toughness, accuracy. Shedeur Sanders would fit that bill. He's got a small shade of Joe Burrow to him. I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow. But as far as like the ability to work from the pocket, process information, he can do a lot.
Mel, I've heard you say that. I've heard those words come out of your mouth. Go.
I've said elements of Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning, and Tom Brady. Elements. I'm not saying it's going to be those guys, but elements of those guys. And to what Tim was saying about the weather conditions. Tom Brady went to New England. Tom Brady went in the late 6th round because he didn't have the big arm. He was not fast. He was 5'2", 440. Worst vertical jump of any quarterback I've ever evaluated. He goes to New England. He's the greatest of all time. He dealt with the weather very effectively. Shedeur's arm is good enough. It's good enough. His mobility is good enough. He can get you a 3rd and 8 first down with his legs. He is a guy, he's a processor. He's accurate. He does everything you want from a standpoint of being old school, traditional drop back pocket passer who can surgically go down the field and do what Tom Brady did, coming out as a late 6th round pick when they took a compensatory pick with Brady and another player, cornerback from Virginia, in the 6th round with their own pick. So Tom Brady was passed over because he didn't have the big time arm strength or the athleticism or the mobility. Yet in New England, he was the greatest of all time. And Shedeur Sanders, I'm not saying he's going to be that, but I think for the Jets at 7, and do they move move up and get ahead of the Raiders? They could. I didn't project the trade here, guys, but maybe the Jets, hey, to get ahead of the Raiders at 6, maybe jump up a bit with maybe New England or somewhere, Jacksonville, say, at 5.
This is fascinating to me. And you mentioned earlier this morning, you mentioned the possibility of the Jets having interest in Justin Fields. So you bring in a Justin Fields. He becomes sort of your look. Justin Fields doesn't view himself as a bridge quarterback. Hasn't even had the career that he wants yet. But now you have yourself a nice option. You've got the rookie in the waiting and all that kind of stuff. What do you think, Hasselbeck?
Yeah, about that pairing?
Well, or
yeah,
I mean, you know,
listen,
I'm getting excited all of a sudden.
But also put yourself in Aaron Glenn's shoes when you talk about, okay, coached a long time to get this opportunity.
Right.
And he's seen enough to know you better get it right because you're not going to have a long leash to do it. And so I would say, like, how you build your quarterback room, how those guys view their roles, I think is critically important. So I would be...
So you don't want Justin Fields.
I don't know that I want Justin Fields and Shedeur Sanders.
Understood. Because it's going to be Shedeur's. It's ultimately going to be his. So ultimately, let me finish this with Fowler. Will the Jets have to move up to make this happen? Do you believe, as Mel suggests, that Shedeur Sanders, and he's not, it's too early for him to mock drafts. He knows this too. Do you think ultimately someone will have to go up higher than 7 to get Shedeur?
I don't necessarily think so. He could fall to them. Just talking to people around the league, they do not consider this a strong quarterback class overall. You remember in 2022, the Kenny Pickett class?
Yeah.
Those quarterbacks all fell. Will something similar happen? Probably not. I think Cam Ward will go high. Shedeur Sanders will go pretty high. But could he fall slightly? There's at least some conversation around the league that could happen. Maybe he falls right to.
Just look at think about it. The Titans, who need a quarterback, are being mocked as not taking a quarterback.
Right.
I mean, the reality is that that seems to be the general feeling because there are quarterback needy teams that are picking early that, as people kind of projected, are not.
Plate you here high in the draft. Mel, stay where you are. I didn't get to half the things I wanted to do with you here. Keep Mel there. We're coming back to that. All of a sudden, I got excited. As we continue, the first thing we need is Matthew Stafford to go to the Giants. So we got to make that happen here. The Stafford sweepstakes. It's the offseason's biggest deal. It's going down at the Combine right now. Jeremy has the very latest. You can't miss it. Next, get up on ESPN. Let's make this.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các bạn nha. Mình sẽ giới thiệu cho các bạn về kênh của mình và những video của mình cho các bạn biết được là kênh của mình làm video sáng tạo nội dung về chủ đề gì. Video của mình sẽ làm xuyên suốt về chủ đề cắt dán này. Mình sẽ cắt dán những sản phẩm như thế này cho các bạn xem. Còn đây là những sản phẩm mình đã hoàn thiện rồi. Sẽ giới thiệu sơ qua cho các bạn xem những sản phẩm của mình và cách của mình tạo ra những sản phẩm như thế nào. Và để tạo ra được những sản phẩm đa dạng màu sắc như thế này và như thế này thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ như sau, những dụng cụ phụ bổ trợ như là đây là giấy thủ công màu các bạn. Trước mặt bên tay phải của mình đây là giấy thủ công màu. Nó có đa dạng những màu sắc để tạo ra những sản phẩm tuyệt đẹp cho các bạn xem. Đấy.